welcome to this, and this is a video response to Instant Classic 8, because he did his Fave 5 markout moments. I'm on my top 10 markout moments. If you're going to do something like this and you want to do a video response to this video, please don't. Please do it to Instant Classics. I'm going to do this as a video response to his because he deserves some love. Basically he talked about the fact that he was watching Davey Richards, and what kind of brought this along was Davey Richards versus Kenta, which is kind of funny because he talked about how he marked out during that match, particularly when Kenta hit the Falcon Arrow to the outside on Davey Richards. Funny because I was at the show, as was Crazy Mike. Me and Crazy Mike were sitting next to each other, and we literally marked out like little kids for that thing. We were jumping up and down, screaming, hollering for that exact moment, so it's kind of cool that that was the moment that kind of brought this along. So I'm going to do my top 10. I'm going to talk about two, though, that are not on my list that he talked about, and I'm sure that people, if they do this, will probably bring up both of these moments. But they're not on my list, but I thought I would just include them. One he talked about was Ladder War, which was a cool night because we were all on Skype, we were all watching it, and we were all, because of delays, and some guys were having to stream it because they couldn't order it, and even some of us, were like, some of us were watching on cable, some of us were watching on satellite, so there was different delay times. So we're all marking out at different moments. I believe I was ahead of everybody, and so I would mark out first, and then Juice, Dirty White Boy, I believe he'd already seen it, and so he was basically banned from the call because he had already seen it, and if I remember right. And I would mark out first. Everyone would then know that something was coming, and then they would mark out more than I marked out because I had my hands over my mouth trying not to mark out. It was that awesome. And then of course Cena making a surprise appearance at the Royal Rumble. I marked out pretty hardcore for this only because I knew that meant that Triple H wasn't winning the show. And if you've seen my review of the show, you know what I'm talking about. So I thought I would talk about those and just say that, no, they're not on my list, but that should probably explain to you just how much I marked out for the things that will be on this list. So first, ECW invades WWF for the second time. If I truly did kind of a runners-up type of thing, ECW, the first time they invaded the WWF, would be there. It'd be there with bells on. It would. But this was on there only because I absolutely loved it. I don't think I thought I missed ECW as much as I had until this happened. The fact that all the guys came out and then you had the guys turn around. I'm sure most of you have seen it. Then you had the guys turn around, and I didn't even notice that you had all these ECW guys on there with just a couple of guys that were not, and then they all beat up everybody. And Jim Ross's commentary, Paul Heyman, cutting his promo. I marked out very hard for it. It just made me realize how much I missed ECW, and it hadn't even gone that long. So that kind of should tell you that. I just remember watching it and literally jumping up and down and being on the edge of my seat and not being able to sleep that night. I really do. Then we had Samoa Joe calls out Misawa. This was a pretty big thing. When this happened, and I'm sure most of you have seen the promo where Joe, who is hurt, they were doing a show in New York City. I can't remember which show it was. I think it was it Fifth Year? I think it was Fifth Year. And Joe, or no, Fifth Year was before. I guess it had to be Final Battle. Final Battle, because they did, right? Yeah, Final Battle? Yeah, it was Final Battle. And Joe comes out, and he cuts a promo because he was hurt, and he cuts a promo on Pro Wrestling Noah. He talks about how, he wants Morishima, Morifuji, bring, Kenta Kobashi, bring him Kenta, bring him he names off all these guys, and then he stops, and he calls out Misawa. Now, I didn't know how this went on because I just knew that he called out, and I was very curious on exactly what he said, and did he call out Misawa, and was this all supposed to be him calling out Misawa? And when Jared and a few other guys that were at the show that I knew, when they announced, when they got onto the message board where I met Jared, this is before me and Jared even started talking to each other, they told me exactly what he said. And I started marking out and just started just kind of spamming the board going, Joe Misawa, Joe Misawa, Joe Misawa. And Jared started doing the same thing. He was pumped for it too, and we annoyed a lot of people. But that was literally a big, huge markout moment. Misawa was one of my favorite wrestlers, probably my, at least top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time. And Joe, I just at that point I was super high on Joe at the time of this, and yeah, I was just like, I want to see this match. So yeah, that was that. Number 8, Jim Cornette. Shoots on the NWO. I put shoots. It really wasn't a shoot, particularly the one most of you have seen, because most of the one you guys have seen is the one from Raw, where he came out, he did his little promo about the NWO, he talked about Hulk Hogan, and he even talked about Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, and just the state of wrestling in general, and kind of superstars. I'm sure most of you have seen it on here. What you've not probably seen is his original shoot on this, because that was actually the second time he'd done it. He did it before on Bite This. He did it the week after, or he did it the week of when the NWO did their parody of Arn Anderson and the Four Horsemen, which I literally said "fuck you" to WCW because of that, and literally I don't think I watched Nitro for about a month after that. At all. I mean, I definitely was done as far as really following WCW after that point. Pissed me off that much. I'm not the only one. And then Jim Cornette cuts this promo basically saying what a lot of us felt like. I mean, it was literally like this awesome thing that we wish other people would, have talked about. And the people in the industry, somebody in the industry was saying stuff that we wanted said. So it was this awesome thing. I can remember just being, I still listen to it every once in a while. I still watch the thing on Raw, and it still just gets me going. Number 7, the night they announced Barely Legal. Let's get thirsty. The first ECW pay-per-view. This was pretty big. I was reading spoilers. They were running a show that night. They finally announced that they were going to run it. They did this big angle with Taz and Sabu, which, people had been wondering when they were finally going to do that match. They led up that match forever, and just awesome. I just remember thinking, thank God, we're finally going to, I was finally going to get to see ECW live, because I'd only ever seen him on tape. It was awesome. I loved it. It was, I was didn't sleep. That's how I judge me marking out, is if it causes me not to sleep, then I marked out for it pretty hard. So there was that. Number 6, the only match on here, and some people are going to be shocked that this is the only match on here, but it's the only really match on here, and that's John Cena versus Rob Van Dam at One Night Stand. Yep, even more than, the Dragon Gate 6-man, more than any other match I've ever seen. I still watch this match. I still mark out for it. I love it. This match has more heat, more just awesomeness than I've ever seen. And I cannot think of another match I've ever seen this in. It was just like, wow. I mean, John Cena comes out, and it would have been easy for John Cena to come out and basically play heel, but he didn't. He came out and he kept playing face. And it was like, I'm going to play face because that's what you guys don't like. And then Rob Van Dam's going to play, Rob Van Dam, and it's going to work, and it's going to be great. And it was awesome. I mean, it was just, from the moment John Cena threw his shirt out to the crowd, and the crowd was throwing his shirt back to him, them chanting, "You can't wrestle," or the same old shit chant, and then he did the dive off the top of the turnbuckle onto the floor, so that they instead of saying same old shit, you still suck, or you still can't wrestle, you stick something like that. To Edge costing John Cena the title, and them chanting "Thank you, Edge, thank you, Edge." I mean, this is just the most craziest thing, and it's all because of the fans. I just marked out for it so hard. It's the match that not only that, because John Cena went in there, he showed that he's a man as far as wrestling wise, because he walked in there, he went balls to the walls, said, "Fuck it, I'm just going to go out there, do my thing. These fans don't like it so much." He impressed me from that. I got respect for him because of this match, so there you go. Number 5, I've talked about this. I talk about this all the time on my videos, it seems. But the first time I actually got to see the original ECW live. Amazing experience. I was psyched for it for afterwards. Before I was psyched, I don't think I slept the night before, and then afterwards I was just pumped for like the next week after. And this was just a TV taping. This wasn't even, like a major thing, and it was just, it's hard to explain just what this was. I mean, now that I've been to 2 Ring of Honor shows, and they were not the same. This. I've never been to anything like this. This, like I said, it was just a TV taping, and my best friend who doesn't even like pro wrestling, he still talks about it. I mean, I'll start talking pro wrestling, and he always says, "Remember the time that you took me to the show and I actually loved it?" I mean, it's that sort of thing. So that's number 5 to me. Number 4 is one that is a biggie to me. This is a biggie. When Ric Flair and the Four Horsemen came back to WCW after Ric Flair had been exiled, after Eric Bischoff said he was going to destroy Ric Flair, the backstage stuff, the angle leading up to it, that whole night, I'm sure most of you have seen it. It's on the, I'm sure it's on YouTube, and I know it's on the Four Horsemen DVD. It's just awesome. I mean, I know it was going to be awesome as soon as Arn Anderson comes out. He starts talking. He stops. And says, "You smell that? That's what a pop smells like." And I'm like, oh my god, this is going to be awesome. And it was. And it was emotionally awesome. It's the one, there are 2 moments in all of pro wrestling. All of pro wrestling that I can freely say, there's only 2 that I've ever seen that I say to this day, I wish I was there for those. One is Barely Legal. The other is the Four Horsemen coming back in Horseman Country with that crowd, everything that had led up to it. People, it's hard to explain. You have to understand that even on Raw, even on Raw, you were getting loud. Not just kind of like loud, "We want Flair" chants. This was the craziest thing leading up to this. And then and then they finally bring Flair back. They bring the Horsemen back. It was emotional. It was awesome. And it was one of those moments where, and literally, I would pick this over going to Barely Legal, which to me that's a big freaking deal. Because I would love to have been in that. I would at least love to have been in the arena when that happened. I mean, it was that kind of just awesome thing. Number 3, Ric Flair wins the Royal Rumble to become the world champion. I remember when this happened. This was probably, I'd have been 17 or 18, I guess, when this happened. And, I was 18. And this was before the internet for the most part. I knew a lot about pro wrestling. For the time, I knew a lot about pro wrestling. I understood probably a lot about pro wrestling, as much as I could at the time. And I got that him winning the Royal Rumble was a big deal. And it was a big deal. And the fact that there was a pop and that's kind of surprised me, because you think at the time he was the heel, and it got a pop. And the reason why it was not, looking back on it, there's whole other reasons why I love this. But at the time, it was, wow, we're gonna get Ric Flair versus Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania. Didn't happen, but that's what I thought at the time. I just remember this, I can still watch this. The fact that we had not seen, I don't think anybody come close to lasting that long in a Royal Rumble match, and literally. I can't remember how many, it took years. I mean, keep in mind, when you had guys that basically went 1 to whatever, and one the first guy in and one, it was usually when it was like 30-second intervals or a minute intervals. Wasn't the 2-minute intervals we have here. This went more than 60 minutes. I think Ric Flair was in there for well over 60 minutes. This was just freaking awesome. I just because literally you thought we were going to get Ric Flair versus Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania, and we didn't get it, and that's unfortunate. But looking back on it now, I still mark out for it, because it was, it was Ric Flair getting the dups, getting the thumbs up from Vince McMahon over all those other guys, and pretty freaking cool thing. Number 2. Shane McMahon buys WCW. That's probably all I gotta say. Final Nitro, everything that had happened, everything leading up to it. Vince McMahon in his most glorious day, and Shane comes out that final moment, and I remember my mouth literally just like, this is awesome. I mean, that was probably the last, it wasn't the last time, but that was just, without a doubt, just awesome. I just remember just being like, where's this going? Wow. Everything led to crap after that, but, oh well. For one moment, it was the greatest thing ever. Well, almost. Because this was the greatest thing ever. This goes back a ways. This is hard to explain, and this is going to be the hardest thing to ever top, in my opinion, in pro wrestling history for me. And I'm sure for a lot of people my age, particularly people that remember this is going to be hard to fucking top. I was watching, it was either Superstars or Challenge, I can't remember which, but I'm watching, and keep in mind there's no internet. You had the Apner mags, but that's pretty much it. Didn't know really any of this stuff was about to happen, and I'm sitting there Saturday morning, and Bobby Heenan says he's got the biggest surprise we'll ever met. He keeps going on and on about it. Then finally they cut this promo, and I remember this. They started, and they panned up, and there was the belt. The belt. Ric Flair's fucking belt. And he panned up, and there's Ric fucking Flair. And it's like, come on, this is like 91, 92. Okay? It's a big freaking deal. I can't, the possibilities start going through your head. It was like, we're going to see Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair. We're going to see Hulk Hogan. Ric Flair is finally... Ric Flair? Ric Flair's in the... What the hell? That. Like I said, it's going to be... I can't think of anything that will ever top that. I really can't. I can't think of anything that will ever top that. It was what it was, and that was to me, to this day, the biggest thing I ever marked out for, ever. So, anyways, that's my list. I would say everybody make your own list. Like I said, give Instant some love. Do your video response to him, not to me. I won't accept them. I'm just gonna tell you right now. Unless it's a video response about something I said, it's not gonna be, not gonna happen. Anyways, with that, I'm out. Have a good one. Later.